One of the best defenses we have against weeds in the home lawn area is a good, well-managed turf. And if you do a really good job of mowing, watering, and fertilizing, you're probably not going to have very many of the weed problems, particularly the weeds that you're really familiar with, such as crabgrass and dandelion. However, there are some other weeds that sometimes present problems for us that we often will not think about controlling. And these are some of our annual cool season grasses, such as annual bluegrass, referred to with the botanical name as Poa anna, and also brome grass, which is commonly referred to as cheat. These are cool season grasses. They germinate and begin to grow in the fall, and they really start taking off in the summer and the late spring and early summer before our Bermuda grasses or even our cool season grasses sometimes get off to a good start. So if you want to control these grasses, sometime in early to mid-September is the time to put down a pre-emergence control on those. You'll want to use a material that contains either baylan or beta sand. You can get this material either as a herbicide itself or mixed with a fertilizer, which you can put on your fall fertilization that contains this material. Now, Poa anna, or annual bluegrass, and cheat commonly show up in poorly managed turf areas, or else those areas where there may be some problems. For example, high traffic areas where there may be compaction of the soil or where the grass is worn thin because of traffic are commonly areas where annual bluegrass comes in. You may also see it around the edges of decks and porches and the edges of flower beds where the turf may be thin simply because it's not been as well maintained as in the turf area. Annual bluegrass and cheat does begin to germinate when the weather is cool. We want to put this on well before these seeds begin to germinate so that you can get them as a pre-emergence control. One of the really important things about controlling these grasses, like any of our weeds in the lawn, is to be sure that we have our fertilized spreader or the sprayer that you're going to be using well calibrated. On most of the bags that you get where there is a fertilizer and a herbicide mix, it will give you a list of the common lawn fertilizer spreaders on the back and the setting on those particular spreaders. We're using a cyclone spreader here, and the particular brand we have on the back refers to that brand of spreader and instructs us to use setting number 6. It is very important that we do calibrate this evenly, or accurately, I should say, and then spread the fertilizer and the herbicide mix very evenly over the lawn, just like you would any of your other fertilizers or herbicide mixes. One of the things you may want to do enable to assure good even application is to crisscross the application. If you did this, this means you would want to half your recommended rate and then go in 2 different directions across your lawn so that your patterns crisscross. That way you're more sure of an even distribution. And this is especially important if you're using a drop type spreader as opposed to a cyclone spreader like we're using here today. Now, one of the important reasons also for controlling these types of grasses in the lawn is because the annual bluegrass and the cheat does begin to show up early in the season before the warm season grasses begin to show color. And if you have these green spots showing up from the annual grasses, then you really have a very unsightly turf. But this particular herbicide, like all herbicides, of course, should only be used on established lawns. You certainly do not want to use these on newly seeded grasses or on grasses that have not become well established in the springtime. This probably will be the last time you use your fertilizer spreader this year also. It's always a good idea to clean these spreaders well between each application, and especially in this one, because the corrosive materials in the fertilizer as well as the materials in the herbicide will cause damage to your spreader. So be sure and wash your spreader out and hang it up to dry after you've finished your application of the fertilizer and herbicide material.